think within hip hop in general right now, people care more about the vibe than they care about the lyrics. But for
Hmm.
us, we care more about the lyrics than we do the vibe. But the vibe is still important, right?
Right,
Hmm.
right.
So,
That would be to complete what would be an MC.
Okay. Like
You
a
know what I mean?
well-rounded. Oh,
Like a well-rounded MC. Like you gotta have. You can't just be a lyricist. You gotta have a vibe. You gotta be
right,
able to control the crowd. You know what I
right.
mean?
yeah, yeah,
You gotta be able.
sure, sure.
Songwriting,
But
picking.
but being an MC doesn't matter to today's audience, right? Today's
Mm,
current audience.
This is
Be
true.
just having a vibe or
Mhm.
having or being the word that we took out of our vocabulary, back in the early 2000s, real,
Swag. Oh,
real.
okay. I just
right?
want to say
Oh.
swag.
No,
He said
no,
real.
I would never say swag, even if yeah,
I was
God
like,
damn it,
no, please
you
don't
made
say
me you
swag.
made me say swag. But
Hit the swag button, man.
Word.
we used to say like there were so many songs back in the day like keeping it real, like I'm real, blah blah, and we don't say that anymore. But it's important for today's audience is like he doesn't live that, he's not real, he's not about that
Mm,
life.
mm,
And I don't care if you're about that life if
true.
what you're saying sounds good as long as it's not super negative, because if it's super negative and you're not about that life, then I
What are
can't
you
rock
doing,
with
dude?
it,
Exactly.
right? If you're pretending that it's you, I think MCs can just be like film writers and film producers. You can tell a story and it not be your story. But if
Right.
you're acting like it's your story and it's super negative at the same time, then I can't rock with it.
Here's one thing also, just to jump on that, the tail end of that. If you're telling the story, it's not your story, and somebody else wrote it, right? It's like these days people don't care.
Right.
Whereas in back in our heyday,
Uh-huh.
we did.
We
Like
we
that was
we
super
I
We
important.
think
didn't
I think
know at first, though, to
yeah,
be
I
honest.
think
We
I
didn't know who
think
wrote back then.
right. I think we
It
thought we
came in.
cared,
Right.
right? But a lot of times stuff was written for people and we didn't know that it was written for them.
That's
Or
because we didn't know.
right. Or a group of people came
And it
together and
was,
worked on
but see, but
something
that's the
to
thing. We
help
didn't
somebody.
know, and it was presented as such. It was presented
Mm,
as authentic. This is from that person, and it was quiet if they had a ghostwriter. We never
Sure.
found out. But now
Sure.
people getting pointed out and exposed, and I'm like, what
It's
is?
ironic that the very first few rap records that ever came out had these issues in it, and it still won't go away in
I
2025.
mean, look, Sugar Hill Gang. Like, I
Right.
mean,
The
Sure,
come on,
well,
first
man.
yeah,
one, the
that's just
dude took a
Hank though.
verse, right?
That's just Hank taking Kaz's verse,
I mean,
but
still, it's a third of of one of the most
Of the record.
influential
You
and
know all
most
those record
yeah.
rhymes. Like,
right, that's true.
the
That's
whole.
true. But another thing, it wasn't like Hank said he wrote the rhyme. He never said he wrote the rhyme. He
He
even
never said he
says
didn't.
Kaz's, but he says Kaz's name
He
In
just
the
in
verse.
his rhyme.
he just rapped what was in front of him.
Yeah, I think he was reading off the paper and he just like,
He just rapped
like he
it.
didn't
I
think
don't
of
even
it.
think he
Oh, I
was
should put
thinking
my
about
name in there.
Yeah,
Hold on, let me
Hello.
call Kaz. Let
like
me call
10,
Casanova.
I bet you like 10
Let
years
me
later
call
he was like
Elmer.
he heard it or he was on stage and it just like the thought bubble popped in his head and he's like, oh wait,
Did I just spell his
did I say
name?
CAZ?
I wonder what his reaction was the first time someone told him that. Like, you said Kaz name, right? And I wonder how he
Yeah.
felt that first time. It was years ago, I'm sure, as a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah,
But
yeah.
hey,
But yeah,
look,
yeah, you're right, Rod. You're right about that.
I mean for me, right? I think when we were younger, I think the thoughts and ideas or the code of ethics that we put on hip hop, right? Or
We were
were
purists.
yeah, it was a little. It's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous, right? As you grow, you evolve. Your thought patterns change, and I don't think that you're not an MC if someone writes some of your rhymes. If you are an MC and someone writes all of your rhymes, then you're not an MC. You're just
You're
a
not an
rapper.
MC.
A
You're just a
performer.
rapper,
Right.
entertainer, performer. I'd like to see what people's thoughts
Opinions
are.
are.
Yeah, I'm saying I want to write us, write
Mhm.
us, write
So the
us.
question for for you guys out there is if there's an artist and they have someone else writing their material, if they're a rapper, if they're an MC or a rapper, not like they're a singer or whatever, But does that take away from them being considered an MC or a full complete artist, or are they just a performer entertainer? And then there's a nuance here. There's artists like Blitzkrieg said that their entire stuff is written, like their whole career, someone else writes their stuff. And then there's artists who do write. They are a lyricist, we would say. They're a writer. But then when they got big and they're making albums, they might call in someone, give me some ideas for this verse, help me with this hook. Maybe occasionally they'll use someone else, someone else on their team will write them 8 bars in the middle of a song and they'll use it, but they write their other stuff. So does that matter? Is it like if anyone ever writes for anything for you, you're disqualified from the top MC's conversation? Or is that okay? What do you guys thought?
It just does something to me. It's just like, it just does something to me because I really feel like we grew up with hip hop, like just
right,
like the culture, like when it was just started, and we grew up when we watched it. It was like hand in hand. We was there. You know what I mean? It was like, and the people we came up with, and us being lyricists as well, it was like you had to pen your own
we
stuff.
didn't want anyone to write for us. That was our personal thing as an artist. Like,
For sure.
it would be an insult. Like if you were like, gee, I wrote this dope stuff, but from your perspective, why don't you kick this rhyme? Like, no, are you crazy? No, we have to write our own stuff no matter what. And I
We've
still
done
feel
joints,
we feel
though,
that to
like,
this day. None of us really want to.
No,
right.
I'm not taking a verse from nobody. If somebody
Right.
writes me a dope hook, I'm going to use it for sure.
Right.
But it's like it's different now. There are still rules to me. Like don't battle me with somebody else's words, right? But there's also the thing like what is a freestyle, right? There's that whole thing. Like we could say freestyle is like you just thought of it off the head while impromptu, and then other people say a freestyle is just like a written verse that has nothing to do with nothing. It's just you just like kicking rhymes or whatever. I don't want to get into that one.
That was us saying off the top, right?
Yeah.
But the people before us was like, no, freestyle is
it's just a written rhyme that's not
that hasn't been released yet.
Yeah.
And I think they should call that free verse, because in other song genres, they call something writing free verse, meaning that it doesn't have a song concept. It's like you're just topically going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that when people started saying freestyle and meaning that, I think they were saying that, and then it got known as freestyle. And then there was a different culture of people who were improvising off the top, and they were calling their thing freestyle. And so they just got mad at each other and argue about what a real freestyle is, but it's just that you had a different definition of the word. So
when we move forward, Rod, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When we move forward, do you think that the culture is becoming diluted, or are we just evolving and we don't care? Or is it like, because I'm thinking culture and I'm thinking corporation. Is it the corporation that's making it so that we don't care anymore? Because it's a multi-billion-dollar business.
About these issues, about like freestyle and writing and stuff?
Well, we brought up like what's the definition of an MC? Do you care if somebody writes your rhymes? Stuff like that. Just like is it? What's the answer?
I don't think that. I think us as artists, right? We decide what is allowable and not allowable to an extent. Obviously, if the fans who are a bigger base of people than the artists are don't care, then it doesn't matter what we think, right? Because they're the consumer. And when I say consumer, I'm not saying the people that buy it. I'm saying the people that listen to it, the people that consume the music, right? And if they don't care, then it doesn't matter what we think, because the next artist that wants to get a ghostwriter and put out music and say, yeah, I got a ghostwriter, as long as the people like the music, it doesn't matter.
What if that person? But what if you got two hot artists and one writes their own material and the other? You know what I mean?
That doesn't make a difference to me anymore, right? Do I feel better about myself because I write all my own stuff? Absolutely. But It does, but again, on the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Brown Skinned Girl, right, is a huge song, and it's about brown skinned girls. Beyonce is a brown skinned girl, but a
Mm-hmm.
black man, St. John, wrote that song. Is she less of a singer
Mm-hmm.
because St. John wrote that song for her? No,
Mhm.
she
Right,
performed it, she put it out, she gave it the feeling and the effort that made
right.
it, rise to the top.
Mm-hmm.
So who
And
cares who wrote it
but
at the end of the day?
she's not competing for MC title or best lyricist. She's just as an artist performing music that she
I can see
relates to.
that working for like,
So it's
yeah,
different.
G. I can see that working for like that genre,
Right.
or even like
We say
jazz
we
or
say
rock
any
and
genre
roll,
except hip hop. Yeah.
Right. So
except
the
hip
question,
hop.
so another question there, and you guys can let us know what your thoughts about this. Is hip hop and rap music wrong for even having our own rules like this and getting, we have so many things that we do that all the other genres don't do. And sometimes it's detrimental. We're the only ones that get into beefs and then drive by people's house and try to shoot them and then, take it to the physical, go to their shows instead of just on
Right.
lyrics. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then we have
Yeah,
these things about you have to write, or if you didn't write your own verse, you're not real. If you didn't
right,
grow up and live every single thing you said in your thing, you're not real. Oh, you never had that happen to you, you're not allowed to rap about that. Whereas
Yeah.
another artist can make a song about anything and just represent it, right?
what
Right.
I'd
So
like to
are we
see,
wrong for doing that in hip hop?
I
Should
think
we
right,
open
I
up our
think a lot of
genre?
that I think a lot of that is wrong. I do. But go ahead, Keith.
I would like to see us as the culture, the hip hop culture,
Mhm.
get behind and support the artists like rock and roll does with their artists, right? So, like for instance, we got like the Who or Billy Joel can go anywhere on the globe, sell out a stadium by themselves, right?
Sure.
Is that
And
our
it's like,
support or the labels and
and
industry?
and but the audience will be, not gender or age specific. It's
Mhm.
all this various and
True.
people supporting, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that in hip hop. We
We
don't
don't have
have
it
that
as
in hip hop.
much. I think we have it a little bit, but we're not as strong on that.
We don't. I
There's
mean,
old school hip hop. There's radio stations that play classic
I'm just
records.
saying, like
Occasionally, a big show
we
where
got
they
a
have.
dog, we got a one-upmanship, a dog eat
Yeah.
dog, and at first it started out as, it was like all in fun, but then it became, this
See,
thing.
yeah, see, but that you're talking about the artist, right? And then you're talking about
Machine.
the consumer buying tickets to a show for an artist that is a legacy act, right? Let's say,
Mhm.
somebody that's older that can fill an arena, or
Hmm.
should be able to fill an arena, right?
Right.
So the dog eat dog thing is between us. That has nothing to do with the consumer, or at least it shouldn't, right? But I
But we
think,
set the precedence, though.
but see, the problem is, right,
Hmm.
that the rules that we make within hip hop then bleed onto the consumer, and they think that they need to do and feel and act the same way as the artists act. They can't just be a consumer. They also have to live by the rules and in the stuff that these artists claim that they live by, right? So
I'm seeing that because we act like that as artists, right?
Mhm.
That affects the consumer.
that's exactly what I just said. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I
Is that
think
what you
that
say?
I think that it's possible that the reason why hip hop got into that became the reason why it developed that way is because it came from MCing. And when there was no records out and a DJ would play a hot record, I think one of the ones like Heartbeat or Love is the Message, and they would, oh, I want to rhyme on this beat. Cats would want to rhyme and would go to the DJ booth, and then they would want to out rhyme each other. And then the idea of being the dopest MC, being better than everyone, battling. And so, therefore, when a new MC is a dope guy known in the neighborhood or in the
Mhm.
party, they've taken out the guy who was the top guy before. Now they're the dope.
Right.
And then when we
It
put out
started with the
records,
DJ
we did
though,
the
but it
same
started with
thing.
the DJ.
But each group also would release records and
Y'all are
try to
Right.
going too far.
dominate with that record. So I think maybe the culture of hip
No,
hop
no, y'all are going way too
led
far back. Look,
led to
yes,
later artists always wanting to one up each other and take each other out.
hip
You know,
hop is the only genre of music that's also a sport, right? To us, it's a sport. To younger people, Yeah, do they want to be better than the other person? Yeah, but it's not as important as it was to us to be, to actually have those battles, or to
The competitiveness.
yeah, the total competitiveness of one upping each other, right? So we
Mm.
have that thing. Then we also have the fact that every other music was allowed to grow in a different way than hip hop was allowed to, because it was a boom. It exploded so fast that the consumerism came in and started eating up the artistry, right? So now you have every label that's saying, yo, we got to get the young guys. We got to get the young guys. One, because they don't know no better. We can, screw them in their contracts. And two, most consumers of music are young people, right? So we want to get people that are like the people that are going to consume the music. But at the same time, we have the fact that hip hop hasn't died, right? It
Mm.
continues to go on. So the audience continues to go on and continue to grow. And because of that, I think we're getting to a point where older acts, like we have Jay Z's 50 years old, but he can still sell out any arena. When Drake is 50 years old, I'm sure he'll be able to sell out any arena. Our huge acts,
Mm.
Nas. I went to see Nas at Shea Stadium, right?
Mhm.
Watching Nas show at Shea Stadium, and then 2 days later, I went to go see Jay Z and Justin Timberlake at Yankee Stadium.
Mhm.
Smashed it out, and they did this like for nights and nights and nights on end.
Mhm.
So our huge acts are absolutely able to do that. The
Right.
smaller acts, well, you just have to go, overseas and do it there, because they'll still accept it. Master Ace can still go overseas and pack, huge
Mhm.
spaces. Maybe not like a full arena, but he can do. They do, him and Marco Polo. They do big shows out there.
Oh,
Um, you know,
shout outs to Marco Polo. Shout outs to Marco Polo.
yeah, yeah. Shout out to Master Ace too.
Shout out
Um,
to Mr. Ace.
but yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, that it doesn't seem like there's enough of an ability for our older acts to do as much as they should be able to do.
Mm.
Um, but
Because that's going to set precedents for the younger acts when they get older.
Right.
well,
You know
it
what I
It's
see,
mean?
starting to
look,
happen now. Blitz is right.
every couple years, everything changes, right? Because now there was a time, we have the great thing about us, we have a DMX who has a catalog of 5, 6, 7, 8 albums, right? We have Jay-Z that has, tons of albums. We have all these people that have tons of albums, but a lot of these newer acts are not going to have that, because it's a single driven market now, right? Ringtone rappers are not really able to go out and sell out stuff, because at that point in time, they was like, oh, we got to sell these ringtones. And it's the same thing. It's very similar to now, where it's like, yo, we got to sell this single. Forget about making a catalog of
Right,
music.
right.
Well, don't forget technology changes also. Like
Yeah,
now that we
yeah.
have the streaming, that may start to change because now in the last 3, 4 years, streaming is a very important metric. And streaming doesn't have to do with your latest hit that's been out for a month and then got old, or that one album that just went gold or platinum, but then you don't have a follow up. It can
Right,
be
right.
lots of different things all added together. So maybe that'll change it a little. And there's going to be more changes in the next 5 years.